Welcome to Tech Unscripted. So this is a brand new video series where we will try to be actually unscripted. So we just want to have a conversation today about, I think, something that's on everyone's mind in this industry, and that is really the business of technology. I think all of us are inspired and energized by driving change in our own industries. But this is a chance for us to take a minute and ask, how does that happen? And we are so lucky and appreciative to be joined by two awesome, amazing leaders in technology, and who are here to kind of tell us about their experiences. And again, thank you both for being here to have a conversation, and we'll see how it goes. I'm just going to introduce you both quickly. First, Nicole Coughlin, CIO of the Town of Cary, North Carolina. A few fast facts about Nicole. Has built Cary into really one of the most connected and technology-forward municipalities in the U.S. And I've been there, so I've seen this firsthand, and it's pretty cool. There's some really cool stories. I will say, one of the coolest dog parks in the entire country. Maybe we can talk about that one. And so Nicole has been behind huge imperatives around IoT, around smart cities, around this whole topic, and I'd love to unpack this further. Data-driven citizen engagement, super interesting idea, so we should explore that one. And then a congratulations. So Daryl, we are amongst the elite here, just received the Orby Award for CIO of the Year in the public sector. Oh, nice. So congratulations. Yeah, we're alongside greatness today. And so that brings me to Daryl McMillan. Thank you for being here too, CIO of Delaware State University. Over 30 years of experience, not just in public sector, but also in technology, places like AT&T and Gateway. So you've seen transformation in a lot of different venues. And now you're focusing all of that experience at historically black colleges and universities at Delaware State University. One of the most historic, most storied HBCUs in the United States. I think over 125-year history, is that right?
Yes.
It's amazing.
130.
Amazing. And the thing I read that I really loved here is a really specific focus, and I assume a passion around the outcome being, how do we enable, encourage, and equip students and the faculty along this journey? So very much purpose-driven, and I think in both of your cases, in a lot of ways about humanity, which I hope we'll get into too. But before we do all that, thank you again both for being here. Let's just kind of break the ice so we can get into it. I'll give you a really easy one. Let's start with just one fun fact about yourself.
I'll go first.
Thank you.
I used to drive a Zamboni. It's one of my first jobs.
Amazing, amazing.
Fun fact for me is just enjoying life in general, because I cannot follow that.
And that's literally a fun fact. I love that one. And I'll participate, because we were just talking about this one, you may not know because of how we're sitting, but I'm very tall. I'm 6'6", which most people don't see coming. All right, so one more icebreaker. This one, so we'll go a little bit deeper, but still keeping it fun. So both of you have very storied, successful careers, but if you hadn't become a transformational IT leader, so if you would go back 30 years or whatever to that fork in the road, and you had just gone down a different career path, maybe a dream career path in a parallel universe, fill in the gap for me, you would have been a what?
So I actually, when I was very little, I wanted to be Vanna White. And that job still is not available, so there's no chance for me.
So for folks at home who might be watching in places outside of the U.S., can you give us a quick thumbnail on Vanna White?
Yes, so she's on a game show called Wheel of Fortune, where she dresses in lovely dresses and taps the blocks that change the hints to be letters for the words that you need to guess.
Yes.
And she's been doing it forever.
So it
I'm
may
waiting
still
for
be
that
available.
career opening.
Yes. Yes. Awesome. Daryl, how about you?
So I always wanted to take the opportunity. I used to watch the Today Show. So I always wanted to sit in and become a broadcaster. So I actually went to school for communication and advertising. So that would have been my dream job, is to sit and interview folks.
Amazing,
Yes.
Amazing. Maybe I should.
I was going
we
to say,
should
what
switch
an
chairs.
opportunity now, like take it.
And now I see that this game has been rigged too, 'cause I'm sitting with two people who were aspiring television personalities. Amazing. I think I'll complete the trifecta. I think for me, I probably would have gone to film school and been a starving filmmaker somewhere. thank you both for playing along on those. Let's get into this, because I think everyone's kind of anxious to hear about this whole topic of transformation. And in my experience, I'd love to hear yours. Big transformations always, they start with what I'll call a business case, but I actually think it's a story. It starts with some kind of a story for change, where we see, for one reason or another, we see a from and we see a to. And often that's not given to us. It's something that we see based on intuition or business need, user need. So maybe talk to me, I'd love to hear from both of you about what that looks like for you. How do you spot those opportunities or those problems where you say, there's a clear from to here? And then talk about kind of the conception of that story and the beginnings of that business case. Like how have you seen that evolve for you? And maybe Daryl, I'll start with you this time.
I think a lot of times what you're looking at is that vision, right? So as we look at scenarios that need assistance or need areas where we would work through, I've seen that specifically in higher ed, where we're working in areas where you're trying to advance students, trying to give them the opportunities that they need as they move forward out and graduate. So it's really taking, for us, I took the opportunity to take students and put them into working environments within our area so that we could expose them to the types of things that they're going to do when they graduate, so that they actually have things that they can put on their resumes and be able to move forward in.
Amazing, amazing. And how about for you, Nicole?
Yeah, I love that you talked about storytelling. I think back, I've been in Cary almost 10 years, and I think back my first day in the big kind of boardroom style, and all the department heads are sitting around, and I just looked around and I'm like, everybody has a MiFi? And I'm like, what is going on? I'm like, there's no wireless connectivity. And I'm like, okay. And I remember talking to he's now the deputy town manager, and explaining to him why we need to put wireless in all of our buildings, not just one on campus, but all of our buildings. And like he just didn't get it. And so I was like, Russ, I'm like, do you work at home? Like when you go home at night, do you ever sit down, do some work? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, you like in your kitchen island, you're in an office, you're sitting on the couch. And he's playing along with me, and he's like, well, sometimes I'm at the island. I'm like, huh. I'm like, how long is your Ethernet cord? Right? And he's like, I'm on the wireless. I'm like, exactly. But it took like just that small moment to start to get the idea going, like, okay. I'm like, how people live at home, right? We need to have that same expectations in the office. And I know it's a very simplistic example, and it goes back almost 10 years, but really that art of kind of that storytelling and getting people to understand and showing them brings them along the way. And I think that was the moment that we started to understand, okay, we really need to start transforming quickly.
Yeah, thank you both. And what really strikes me about both of those perspectives is that they're actually, we didn't talk about, the beginning of those conversations is not about technology, it's about humanity. Mm-hmm. And just kind of reading both of your backgrounds too, that sense of greater purpose really jumped out at me, and in different ways. So I was curious, and I think folks would probably love to hear a little bit more about how strongly that sense of greater purpose, advancement of humanity, of society, I think that is sitting at both of your stories, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about, one, how much that maybe motivates you as a leader, and then two, do you find that that's a really strong North Star when you are going about trying to drive change? Is that something that you anchor to when you're trying to move us forward from a technology point of view?
Yeah, I mean, if you're going into public service, that better be your purpose. And I had spent years in private sector before I switched, and to be completely honest, I wasn't kind of sure what that switch would be like. I was like, nah, and I love it. I mean, the ability to have impact for us, for not only our the employees, were about 1,500, 1,600, depending on summer months, and then 190,000 people.
Yeah.
And leveraging technology to make their lives a little bit better. And most of the time they don't even realize it, right? Because we want the technology to be seamless. And so really driving that purpose of how do we create a place where we want people to come to visit, but we want to drive economic development and bring new companies in and make it a thriving place. And not actually just Cary, but the entire region. I really have a passion for making the whole Research Triangle Park region one of the best in the world to live in and work. So, yeah.
And how about for you, Daryl?
Well, I think that when we look at education overall, we are doing our best to make our students worthwhile when they come out. So it's taking that opportunity to really build, because like yourself, I've worked in private sector. I've had a chance to work at some major companies, but having the opportunity to work in higher ed and to really look at students and really see what it is that you want for them and to be able to drive that. And one of the things that I really think helped a lot was the whole COVID environment, because what COVID did was it really painted an eye on technology in a lot of different areas. Some folks that didn't understand really got it when they knew that technology drove how you were able to work, how you were able to work in your environments, being able to do all of the things that we had to do remotely. So I think that those are the things that help to continue to push us.
Yeah.
It's interesting when you talk about COVID from a municipal perspective. We were very fortunate in that we very quickly were able to go mobile, so thankfully we were prepared. But one of the, something that came out of it to me that was really interesting was how much people wanted to be outside and work outside. So having the ability to work in a park using public Wi-Fi became this unbelievable amenity, and not just them being able to work and do whatever they want, but it also leveraged our ability to communicate.
Yeah.
So we used our trails, our greenways, and our parks, filling them with educational material as well, because that's where everyone was gathered. So it became an interesting way to leverage an asset that before, not that it was underutilized, it's been utilized for a completely different purpose.
Yeah.
And so for us, it was an amazing use of both technology and then leveraging what we had already had in place to educate our citizenry.
Yeah, it helped to educate people
Yeah.
overall, right? Because I think even for us, we were in a good position because of what we've done with Cisco and making sure everything was in place. So it was actually in an area when COVID hit, we had really upgraded our environment and we're right in position to do what we needed to do. So it's really helpful to kind of see how that transpired, because you're looking at, just with you, we have multiple buildings, multiple areas. You have faculty sitting all over the place. You have students in different areas. We have students that are international as well. So it was just being able to bring all that together. And I just think that it really pushed to show what technology can do in these environments.
So this is an amazing moment, because it just underscores, again, both of you just light up when you talk about that purpose and people at the center of that purpose. And your word was perfect, Daryl, the vision, right? That I can see for both of you that people outcomes are right at the center of that vision for both of you. So for the folks watching, let's get a little tactical now. So we have a vision, we have something we believe in and we think it's important, and we're willing to kind of put our energy and our reputations, quite frankly, behind it. So talk a little bit about, now I need to create an actual business case, right? I need to put this thing into terms that define the problem, define the solution, and quite frankly are usually going to end in asking for an investment or a check or an attention or support. So maybe talk a little bit about the ingredients of that case. How do you take that vision, that purpose-driven vision, and then build it into something that's ironclad, is going to be compelling, and takes all the passion? I think we're all bought into what you were just talking about. We're on board. How do we now convince everybody with that case?
And I can speak for me, and I don't know that it's ever ironclad, but that would be amazing. I've learned what works in Cary for Cary. And a lot of that is through our pilots, and they're very much like a show me. We could say words like art of the possible all day long, and I'm just going to get a glazed over look from my town manager and others, like, tell me what it means and show me. And so one of the things we did early on, actually in partnership with Cisco, is we turned our campus into a living lab.
Cool.
And so we were able to run either low cost or no cost pilots to demonstrate the use of technology. So as we started figuring out, what does the smart cities words mean, We looked at simple things like parking. The campus represents literally everything on the city, just smaller scale, right? So we looked at parking, and we tried to, I call them the hockey pucks, maybe it's my Zamboni reference, I don't know. The sensors that go in the ground, and then we did that with the camera, and we tested both, and we demonstrated the use, and that we were thinking through the different technologies. Now there's far greater advancements in parking technology today. And so I think by demonstrating it, we brought all of this good will and trust, not only in my management, but in our council's members, that they were like, we weren't ever going to go out and just say we wanted to do something. We were going to do our best to demonstrate it and build the infrastructure, make sure we're capturing the data. We built everything up first before we just did anything. And so that's kind of what's worked for us in terms of building that business case. It was leveraging our own property, doing it internal, figuring it all out before we ever asked for our money.
Yeah, it's great. I'd love to, just before we go to you, this is one of my favorites, the idea of show, don't tell.
Yeah.
So I think, for anyone listening, I think this is absolutely one of the essential ingredients is show, don't tell. And especially when you think about the worlds that you both occupy, you're often, who you're pitching to, selling to, are going to be folks who maybe aren't technologists, maybe actually don't even care about the technology part. They just want to know the outcome. So I think that's where the making it tangible, demoing, those things become essential.
And we're very fortunate because the region we're in, so we had lots of great companies that wanted to come help and come show, but we also leveraged a lot of startups that were trying to learn, and they needed just a place to put their technology and let it test out. So we built great regional partnerships with nonprofits, private sector at the same time. And so I think showing that collaboration and trust and kind of we're all in it together bought us a lot of goodwill. So yeah,
that's great. And so how about for you, Daryl? What are the key ingredients to the business case?
Well, very similar. Proof of concept. That was what we kind of termed it all along. And when you have a proof of concept, you can kind of show this is where we're looking to go. For us, an example can be this hybrid work environment. So what we did was we made sure that we developed a plan to show us several classrooms that this is the way it's going to look across campus, across all of what we've done. So we're able to put the WebEx cameras in, the sound, the room, the speakers, all of that, and to be able to show that really gave faculty an understanding of how they were going to teach, what their teaching would look like, how their students would be focused. So by being able to put that information, we would be able to take that vision and kind of move it forward so that we were able to do that across all campuses, across all of our buildings, to make sure that everything was the same. Made it simple because it was the same environment, so every faculty member had the same environment when they went to teach, so they didn't have to worry about trying to relearn how to do things in different areas. So proof of concept always works very well.
Yeah. And so for someone out there watching who's maybe saying, yeah, that sounds amazing, awesome, but boy, it sure sounds like you had to spend money to get money. And what if I don't have a budget? What if I don't have, prototype resources laying around? Like how, because I imagine both of you probably had to get pretty scrappy. So maybe talk a little bit about that. How do you do it without the pre-resources, I guess?
It was great to be able to bring folks on at this low cost, no cost, 6-month, whatever agreement, and then the ability to purchase directly from there. That was a driver for companies that wanted to come in. Yeah. The other part is you got to get out of your seat. I tell people all the time, physically get out of your seat and go and meet the companies around you and go and meet the nonprofits, go find the educational partners. The educational institutions are always looking to learn, right? They're looking for a place for experimentation. So if you can start to think about the resources that are around you and not just what's in your building, you're going to be incredibly successful. There's a million ways to slice and dice that, but it is all about getting out of your seat.
Yeah. You got to step out. You got to make sure, because one of the things that we did is there are many, many companies that want to have an opportunity to show you what they're capable of doing. So that kind of goes back to that whole concept of proof of concept, right? If you want to give me an opportunity to show me what you can do, we can bring those companies in and see how that works. And that kind of helps to deal with the fact of not necessarily having the funding up front, but understanding what you can now gain from working with these different areas, you're able to now put together a budget that can kind of work depending on 1 year, 2 years, 5 years out. But at that point, you can actually work through it.
Yeah, and I wanted to go a little bit deeper on this one too, because before we started rolling, you said you used the magic word relationships, and I could tell it's something you were really passionate about, and what you two are starting to hit on is relationships as kind of as capital, right? But those are things that matter. There's currency to spend there, but it takes some artfulness. So maybe we could go a little bit deeper on when you're approaching potential partners. Where there isn't yet going to be a transactional component, like how do you go about enrolling folks to help again pre-investment?
Pre-investment, really, what I've had an opportunity to do is to kind of work with companies to help them understand what it is that we're trying to do overall for our students and our environment. So if I'm sitting down and really sharing our story, this is what Delaware State is. This is what we're looking to do. This is what our passion is. This is how we're driving the economy. So not only are we educating students, we're bringing those students right back into this community to work in this environment. So they're building upon what it is that we're trying to develop as a community as a whole. I think it's taking and building those relationships with those different companies, as we've done with Cisco. We actually, the salesperson that I have, his name is Rick. Rick is a guy that I work with directly. I work with Rick, I work with Charles, and the fact is that as my level, how many of us really work directly to develop those relationships with those folks, where I know that his son goes to University of Delaware. Right. He should have went to Delaware State. But as an example, it just shows that we have a running relationship so that I can call and he can call me to really understand what it is that we need to do moving forward. How do we bring things in? Because there are demo units that you will find that you have the process to work with different companies, so that as opposed to purchasing right now, I can use these demos to really show how things are functioning and how they're working.
Right. How about you?
Sometimes I like to pull that as a little lever and remind our partners that their employees live and work and play in Cary. And it's also an economic development driver. So the more that we can make the experience of living there and working there, the greater the opportunity is for them as well. So it usually helps form a great partnership. Obviously, Cisco's not far in our backyard. It's great for us to be able to go. We do the EBCs every year with Cisco and form great relationships and learn what's new. And sometimes you just got to take that dedicated time as well with your partners and keep building that trust and relationships.
I love it. I love it. All right, so now I get to kill the mood a little bit, and the last ingredient of the business case that we cannot avoid is the quantitative piece. So maybe talk a little bit about your experience with just the whole. How do you bolster that case to get it to ironclad-ish with the metrics, and what are some of the things that you found people maybe care about, maybe don't care about? How do you go and harvest the data? I think these are things that everyone has to go figure out at some point.
I'll go first. It's interesting for us because we're not going to see a lot of that hard data because we're looking at things internally, right? So if we think about really citizen satisfaction, and we do those surveys every year, and that's a big driver for us. We also know when we're not doing a great job. We all know that people speak up when things aren't going great. But our focus is like, how can we make traffic systems better, right? So how do we put preemption on our emergency vehicles and all of the things that make Cary a great place to live? So we won't see as many, I think, as that, like, here's our cost savings as a strong metric. There is some of that, no doubt, and we do need to have that. But a lot of it is around efficiency gains and around metrics of, Cary is consistently rated one of the top places in the world to live, and that for us is a strong metric that we know that we're doing something right.
Awesome. How about you, for you,
That's
Daryl?
great. I think that for us, it's really taking where we sit as a HBCU functioning in these environments that we are in, being able to push the information to say that for surveys that we take, this is how we look among other HBCUs, where we're in the top thread of HBCUs in the environment. So it's taking that information, showing what we've done with our previous funding as well, to say, here's how we've utilized funding to do different things that we've provided. Here were the outcomes. Here's how successful it's been. This is the same approach that we're taking with some of the new things that are coming in. We talk about AI and other things like that. We have to be prepared for what that's going to be. So being able to leverage what we've done in the past to show where we can kind of move forward in the future and the approach that we take to do those things.
Is there an example or two that maybe you could share? Like when you're sitting there and the controller or the head of finance or the CFO says, okay, I'm buying it, but give me an example of how this is going to generate a specific outcome for either students or for faculty or for both. Well, maybe some examples that have worked well.
Best scenarios is to show the finance person how this software is going to help them continue to do their job. So we've had opportunities where we've implemented software in our environment and where we've worked directly with them to take that software and to show how they'll be able to do better reporting, better forecasting, better understanding of that environment, being able to control credit card processing, everything else. So I think that the focus of it is to make sure that you're showing the functional area how what we're doing impacts what they do on a day-to-day basis, and how what we're going to change will reduce time that they need to work, and that will increase efficiency in what it is that they're doing. So I think that those are areas that really help to prove our message.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. What about then there's another really important constituency in your world, which are the alumni and the boosters. They might be asking the same question, but prove to me how this makes a student's life better. Do you have a favorite metric or two to kind of nail that story when people are curious?
Graduation rate. So basically what we want to do is to show, here's what we're doing and here's how students are affected by what it is that we're doing. We show that these students are graduating at a higher rate. We're showing that these students are being placed in jobs and companies where previously they may not have, but because of the relationships that we're building with these companies, we're ensuring that they have scenarios to staff our students as they're graduating. So that's the information that we want to really show to our alumni, is that what we're doing is really affecting how our university is looked at and how our students are moving forward in their lives, and that our students are now giving back as alumni to the school.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah, and thank you both. We went pretty deep on this first part around the building a business case, but I think it's so important, and for anyone watching, we have to get this part right before we can move into the next steps. And let's talk about the next step. This is the fun one. So we've got our case. We're feeling good about our case. It's a beautiful story, like we talked about. It's got a hard-hitting vision. We've got the metrics to back it up. Now we have to go sell it. Now we have to go socialize it. We have to get people on board, people that matter, and people that may be either skeptical or ambivalent or even opponents. How have you navigated the selling part?
Yeah.
Right? So we got our case,
Right.
and then we have to take that, and there's going to be people that need to buy into that case.
Right.
So what's worked well for you in the past? Maybe what hasn't worked well, and maybe what are some of the tricks of the trade for like navigating that process of getting people to buy in?
Yeah. So buy-in is making sure that we really are with the senior level folks to make sure that we've kind of sat down. And what I've done in the past is to make sure that I've had some individual discussions so that we can make sure that you really understand what it is that we're looking to do. And I've found that it's been very helpful to have those separate discussions so that they understand where we're going, what it is that we're looking to do. And in that respect, when we're doing the formalized bid process, when we're making sure that we're pulling all of that information together, they're there. They already understand what it is that we're looking to do, and it makes it very helpful in selling it to the larger, broad body, because I've done that in having conversations with our Board of Trustees as well, making sure that they understand where we're looking to go. We do that in committee committee type forums and sessions so that we can sell it in the committee area, and then that information is then brought to the larger body. So I think that being able to communicate those things individually in a separate mode so that folks can really ask their questions and you can be able to answer their questions directly in a smaller setting helps to really sell that information moving forward.
Such an important one, and I think we've all seen this one step get missed a lot.
Yeah.
We call it the pre-wire, right? So go in and having those so that when you get to the big room
Yeah.
where everyone's in it, there's
Yeah.
no surprises
Correct.
in that conversation.
Correct.
Yeah, awesome stuff. How about for you, Nicole?
Yeah, I have a little bit different take on it in that I know that not everyone is going to buy in. And there's always going to be at least one skeptic. And I have to be okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to know, like, completely solidly that this is a great idea or a great business case and it's going to work, and be okay with the skepticism, right? And so I think knowing that when you go in the room that you're not going to win everyone over, but you're going to do your best, and if you're confident in it, you just got to keep going forward.
Yeah. I agree. I just think that in that skeptic, we just have to understand sometimes who those skeptics are. Because
you gotta have a little bit of thick skin, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I think you have to have some
Yeah.
thick skin, because there's always going to be skeptics, especially in technology and emerging tech, because something's new and it's always a fad and shiny new object. You hear all of the things, right? So I think if you've become really comfortable in it and you know it, you learn to accept that you're not going to please everyone, right? And so I think knowing that makes selling it and telling the story a little bit easier, because you're not looking to get everyone's.
Yeah.
I agree. I just think that, and I think we're saying the same thing to an extent.
We are.
But I do believe that you got to understand who that audience is,
1000%.
and that skeptic,
And who those skeptics
who
are.
those skeptics are, and where
Yep.
they rate in the decision-making process.
Yep.
Yeah,
Completely agree.
This is the interesting thing, because you both are talking about managing risk.
Yeah.
And frankly, reputational risk.
Yeah, sure.
Correct.
So, and certainly risk to the project getting greenlit. And there's no scientific answer to this question, but I wanted to go a little bit deeper on how do you, if you could give advice to people watching, like how have you developed the kind of the radar for that, the compass for that? When you know you're not going to get 100% everybody's bought in, like how do you determine what's the level of risk that you're willing to accept and you're willing to deal with and you're kind of willing to put your badge on the table for?
Yeah, honestly, sometimes this is probably not going to be the answer you want to hear, but sometimes I really feel like it's like your gut and it's your instinct. Like you just know. And if you, like, I'm always going to say, if I'm going to bet on anyone, I'm going to bet on myself, right? So, like, I know the decisions and the risks that I'm making going in. And so I'm usually pretty clear of where that level is, that I'm at a comfort level of saying, okay, I'm going to take this risk going forward. Now, we're not talking about, a crazy level of risk, but it's always going to be there. And for me, it's like you like kind of get to a point where you like innately know.
Yeah.
I agree. I think that it's really understanding those pros and cons of what it is that we're presenting, because risk is always going to be there, and there is no perfect answer to that question. It's just making sure that you are as prepared as you can be based on the subject matter that you're presenting, so that you can at least answer the questions. You may not get everyone on board, but you are going to present a message that you're proud of and that you understand can work in that environment. So as long as I'm clear with what it is that I'm presenting and that I'm on board with it, that's all we can
Also,
do.
maybe, and we didn't really talk about this when we were, maybe it's some of the learnings from it, when we were talking about pilots and some things. And I think once you're okay to fail, you've kind of got that, like, it's okay, make sure risk tolerance maybe a little bit higher. And not that you're going to fail on the big things, but you've kind of figured it out on the smaller things. And that was a really hard adjustment for the folks that work in Cary, because they work immensely hard and are perfectionists, or try to be. They work really, really hard. And I stopped a project at one point, and we ended up going forward at a different time. And I'm like, we need to like celebrate this, because no one, like, it was this environment that people would just keep going and keep going. And so stopping and kind of celebrating the failure and having a pizza party, it wasn't really a failure, but it was like okay, because I think that that was a moment where like, it's okay, we can take these risks, we
Yeah.
can learn and keep moving forward.
Yeah. Learning from your
Cultural shift.
experiences.
Yeah.
Learning
Changing
from
the
your
culture.
experiences
Yeah.
and being able to take that and moving forward with it. And I think we've had opportunities to be able to do that as well. Hey, we tried to do this before. This was the scenario that occurred based on doing it that way. So we've learned from our experiences. We're going to take those experiences to make this a better scenario.
Yeah, thank you. And I think, thank you. I think you gave us a social media soundbite. I'm going to bet on myself. I can see that one getting pulled out already. Just before we move on from this topic, and I'll keep us moving, but Daryl, really quickly, I love that. I think for you, it sounds like you really want to get as many people across the line as you can. And so maybe just tell, I think this is an important learning for people, like, is there an example you can think of a really particularly tough stakeholder or detractor that you were able to get at least to neutral, if not to on board, and maybe how did you crack that?
Well, I would say that I've had a stakeholder in the past that has been a little difficult. And I think that it's been a chance of really learning socially some things about that person so that we could take the opportunity to take it just away from the business aspect for a second and really kind of touch on some areas. There have been scenarios where, I've taken that person and we've played golf as an example to just kind of learn more about them, to just kind of build that relationship. You're not going to win everything, but I think that in some instances, that was an opportunity to just kind of learn a little more about them so that they could learn a little more about me and how I ticked and what things made me happy and why I was doing what I was doing. I will say that relationship did change, and that as it had been a tougher interaction between us, I think that interaction got better to where they were able to accept discussions and be able to talk about things reasonably. And in some instances, we were able to pass some things through with them. Other instances, it didn't work. Yep. But it at least gave us the opportunity to say things have now changed with this person because we've had an opportunity to grow our relationship, to know here are things that we have in common.
Yeah. It's amazing stuff, and I think you both have validated a theme that we hit on the very top, which is, yes, we're all in the technology business, but really in people business first.
Yeah.
That's the key. All right, so along the business case transformational journey, we've got our amazing vision and story. We've now got everyone on board. You got the funding, you got the check, you got a roadmap. Okay, now you got to bring the whole organization along with you. So it's kind of it's the change management topic. And this is another one where it can go really, really wrong. And just from personal experience, this is the place that's often overlooked.
Sure.
It's often underinvested. Sure. I think the complexity of it is often underestimated because there's this tricky little thing in there called culture that has to be accounted for. So I'd love to hear a little bit about how you both have navigated, like once you've gotten the green light, how have you navigated the change part of it so you're bringing the organization along and getting people enrolled? Daryl, maybe we'll start with you this time.
Sure. Change. Change is tough, and folks have difficulty with it sometimes. Governance is an important piece of that, and what that means is making sure that we're bringing all of the folks together that are affected by this particular change that we're implementing, so that if we can make sure that they're all part of the whole, ensuring that there's project management pieces to it, that there's a project manager established so that the folks that are all now part of this are hearing where we need to go and how that needs to function. People don't like change. It is evident in lots of different arenas, but that whole governance process of establishing project management principles and ensuring that everyone is on deck, that's part of that committee, so that we can show here's what it takes to get from day 1 to day 30 as far as making sure that everything is completed and making sure that everyone is tied in with what their responsibilities are. Nicole holding me responsible, me holding her responsible for the things that are scheduled, and making sure that people are reporting on it so that we have a update and that we also know from a higher level management perspective, senior level management managers are also sponsors of ensuring that this goes through. So if this person isn't really abiding by the schedule and the timelines, making sure that their sponsor is helping them get there as well.
How about it for you, Nicole?
Yeah, it's a big topic, and it's actually kind of fascinating to me because I think when I think of change, it's anything from project management, introducing a change into an environment, or the cultural change, which is, I think, where all the magic kind of happens and sometimes the struggles. And we've been fortunate that we have a town manager that came in about 8 years ago and really has done a tremendous amount of work on changing the culture, right? So it's really going to start with the people and kind of breaking down those siloed walls and it being okay that you're in someone else's lane, right, or space. And so it's been hard because people don't like change. It's been really hard, but also been very rewarding as we've seen lots of people get other opportunities in the organization and move around. So I think all of that kind of a little bit of disequilibrium, I think is good for an organization that promotes and allows for change and innovation and to keep building new ecosystems within the organization. It's not easy. I think governance is great. We tend to think of it more as guardrails these days and kind of keep it. I'm somewhere in the middle of structure, so not keep it this way or this way, but try to find some middle ground, and it's always going to be a work in progress. But I think the more that you can continue to cultivate that type of change within the organization, it's going to make it a lot easier as everyone looks at technology, especially because technology does not sit in the IT department anymore.
Yeah. Well, and the beauty of what you both said is it's exactly two sides of a coin. Right?
Yeah.
There is we need some structure, we need some governance, and then we also need the kind of the galvanizing and the enrolling. And so I want to congratulate all of us. I'm going to start to kind of bring us home here, but we have gone on nearly an hour and we have not said AI. So I'm really remiss. So it's really interesting. We've been talking about this whole concept of change and like how do we, help our organizations transform. And I think everyone out there right now is feeling the pressure of what are you going to do about AI? We can do a whole other hour on this, but just maybe quickly in kind of summarized fashion, how are you both thinking about taking on that change, and what does it mean? What does it mean to your organization, and how are you thinking about navigating this next big wave of change?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think our council literally said, what are you going to do with AI? And then it was a debate of what AI was for 20 minutes. It's interesting to me because there's the very tactical things that we need to do, right? Policy, procedure, process, and then there's experimentation, and then there's the teaching, what is it? So I could pull 3 different or 10 different people from different parts of the organization, and I would get very, very different ideas of what AI is. Someone would just talk about generative AI, and it's going to help me summarize things. I'd talk to the infrastructure folks, and they would talk more maybe agentic AI, and then we would talk about how do we change our processes? Can we do building permits? Can we do so? It's fascinating to me that it literally touches all aspects of the organization, and it is a ginormous topic. And so figuring out how to layer that and start to carve it out is where we are today. We've got lots of pockets of people trying things, but now it's like, okay, let's figure out like what's going to be the structure. And I think the most important part really is going to be like some just basic training on the whole swath of all of what is AI. So we're all using the same language, because if I say AI and you say AI, we could be thinking 2 different things.
Yes. And we're kind of back to the beginning of our conversation. It's like, well, to answer the question of what are we going to do about it, we got to decide which story are we telling first.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, how about for you guys, Daryl?
I think AI is a moving car, right?
Yeah.
We're trying to define it as it's moving, right? And I think that's the area. It's going to continue to change. It's going to continue to develop. What we have to do is to make sure that we're there to understand how this car is still moving. We need, in our environment, because it's higher ed, we have the issue of students using AI to do their work. how do you leverage that? How do you manage that from a faculty perspective? So those are things that we're looking at. We're looking at the hardware and software that's being used in AI. So all that I can really say is that it's something that we are interested in. It's something that we're working on and that we're trying to define as it's still moving. And I think that that's the challenge for all of us, is that we're dealing with a product and a movement, if you will, that is continuing to grow as we are watching it. So we'll continue to be there. We'll continue to work through it, but it is definitely not a finished product.
And we are all in the same. We're all in it together on that one, I think. It's going to be exciting to see how it unfolds.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to start to bring us home here, and I just have to say, and to anyone watching who's either a leader at your level already or an aspiring leader, I think you two have just opened up a treasure chest of knowledge and experience here. There's so much gold here. So maybe I'll give you one more opportunity. One words of wisdom or piece of advice or one kind of singular learning that you'd like to pass on to others who are on these journeys.
Yeah, for me, especially being in the public sector, it's really, like I said before, getting out of your seat and making partners and finding the people in your community, whether it's like the universities or the nonprofits or the for-profit organizations. I think we're all trying to make the best place to live in communities, so pull on those levers. We can, as public sector people, we cannot do it alone.
Yeah.
It's very challenging for us to do it alone, so we need to have great partners. And so I would say that's kind of your golden nugget. Go find those partners to help you along your journey.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Be open to new things and changes. You can't always do things the way you used to. You have to be able to adapt in this changing environment. So those would be the words that I would leave. Be able to adapt to changing situations, because they're going to always occur, and to continue to build those relationships with those that are around you, because they'll be able to assist.
Amazing. I think a perfect way to bring us home, and for me to say we are incredibly grateful. Thank you so much for your time. We know you're both really busy people. Thanks for spending the time with us. Thank you for entrusting your businesses and your communities, whether it's City of Cary or Delaware State University. Thank you for entrusting Cisco with that. It's an honor to be your partner. And again, for anyone watching, there is so much gold in, I think, what you've shared. The insight, the candor. Thank you. Thank you again also for doing this kind of unscripted. We didn't rehearse any of this. You didn't know what the questions were going to be. We just had a conversation. And so thank all of you for joining us for Tech Unscripted. And we will be back with more. And I think maybe just to leave all of you with my thoughts, what I really take away from this is all of this business technology transformation. It starts with a couple really simple things, and you both highlighted it. It starts with a people purpose. This is a people business. And I think the very beginning of our conversation, the journey also starts with a very simple question, and that is, what if? What's possible? So thank you for joining us. We'll see you again soon, and thank you both again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.